If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories around fitness and self-improvement, which you can apply to your life today. For those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I'm your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you everything you need to know about cold showers, gratitude, and motivation. So, 3 very misunderstood subjects in some cases, which hopefully I'm going to shed some light on, help you understand them and how you can use them in your own pursuit of constant improvement. Now, we're going to start off with the first one here, which of course is cold showers, which is something that's become very popular over the past few years, mainly through an individual called Wim Hof, who has been groundbreaking with some of the things he's done in terms of he's helped thousands of people, probably more, with cold water therapy. So many people nowadays are trying this out to try and improve their mental health, their physical health. But there is still a lot of things that people aren't too sure of. And I'm hopefully going to clear that up for you. Now, me personally, I've done cold water exposure, cold water therapy, whatever you'd like to call it, for quite a while now, over a year. I take cold showers. I have swam in cold lakes. I have swam in the sea when it's been freezing cold. Like I've done it all in the terms of cold water exposure. I've used ice baths. I've been in cold dips, loads of different things. So I have quite a bit of experience, but I'm also going to back this up with some research as well, because it's great me sitting here saying, oh, well, this has done this, or this is great, this is how I felt. But what does the research say as well? Why should you implement this if you're not already? Maybe you are. Maybe there's some changes you can make with your cold showers to make them a little bit more effective. Okay. Now, as I said, there's many different types you can do. You can use an ice bath. You can use cold showers. The main difference between the two is, of course, with an ice bath, you are submerged. You can go straight underwater. You can go to your shoulders and you stay cold, and it's very consistent. Whereas with a cold shower, you have streams of cold water going down you. And if you're like me and you have a very, very poor shower at home, it is quite horrible because you're getting a little bit of you wet and you have to get the rest of your body. So it can be quite different. However, what they both do is they elicit the same response. They elicit a cold water shock. Now, if you've experienced it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You've went into cold water and you'll start hyperventilating. You won't exactly, you'll not be able to think of anything really. You'll panic almost. It's a panic. It's a survival response from our body. And it's that exact survival response that kickstarts certain things in our body that lead to feelings, like us feeling good, us feeling mentally clear, and things like that. Now, with cold showers, the reason I'm talking about cold showers more than ice baths is because we all have, or hopefully all of us have we can use that every single day. We have a shower at home. We can do it in the morning. We can do it anytime we like. We have access to it. Now, for something to be defined as cold water therapy, they say it needs to be below 14 degrees centigrade, which isn't terribly cold, but it should be enough to give you a little bit of a shock. Now, me personally, I feel like I've always had the best benefit from water that is cold enough to really give me that shock. Like if I go in the water and it's a little bit cold, but my breathing doesn't start, like my heart rate doesn't shoot up, I start to hyperventilate. To me, that's not enough. I don't quite feel the benefit to it. So if you're ever doing cold water exposure or taking cold showers, make sure that the second that water hits you, you want to jump out. You do not want to be there. Let me make that very clear. When you're in cold water, you should not want to be there. Okay? That is what gives us that response from our body, because what typically happens is when we create shock, cold water shock, our body releases adrenaline. Now, adrenaline is that feeling of when we start to hyperventilate, our heart rate will shoot up, our breathing rate will shoot up, which is why you feel like that. And it feels very uncomfortable, and that's for a lot of different reasons as well. But that is the feeling we want to embrace. That feeling of being uncomfortable, being very cold, but what your job is next is to control that. So if you've ever had a cold shower before, you've ever tried it, what you've probably done is you've probably jumped in the cold, you've jumped straight back in, you're like, oh, that's horrible, I can't do that. Now, as I said, it is your job to overcome that, to get the benefits. Okay, we don't just get handed benefits in life. We need to go through a little bit of discomfort to get them, as you'll probably know. Now, with cold water, what you're looking to do is stay within that cold water for anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes. That's typically what a lot of the research says. There's a very good amount of evidence showing that up to 11 minutes per week, not per time, per week of cold water exposure can be very beneficial for our health. It elicits some physical health responses and some mental health responses. Now, today, I'm mostly going to be talking about the mental response and how it makes us feel with cold water exposure. And the reason being is because the research on the physical benefits is somewhat still clouded. There is benefits, yeah, some of them very, very short term. However, the mental benefits are very clear. The hormonal responses that we get from it, they are very clear in the sense of how it makes us feel. For example, with cold water exposure, when we get that cold water shock, it's been shown to give us a 250% spike in dopamine, which is that hormone that makes you feel good. Okay, that's what we relate to feeling good and feelings of almost joy and happiness is dopamine. So once we've overcame that cold water shock, we've been in that cold shower, that's often how I feel. You feel relieved, you feel good, you feel somewhat happy, you feel more optimistic than when you first went in. So I've always used cold water as a tool in the sense that if I'm in a little bit of a rut, if I'm not feeling great, if I'm a little bit, even almost sad, if something just isn't right, I'm not feeling like doing anything. If you can get that ounce of discipline to push yourself through that cold water, you'll come out it feeling better. Mark my words. But again, this is the tough part. It's getting to the stage where we can actually push ourselves through that for 2 to 5 minutes. Now, I recommend for anyone beginning, just do your best. Go in for 20, 30 seconds if you can. The first thing you'll want to get more than that is in control of your breath. Now, a lot of people say, well, what should I do breathing-wise? Wim Hof has his technique. A lot of it comes from hyperventilating beforehand and then going into the cold water. Many other people have their kind of breathing techniques. What I find works very well personally, and you can try this, is going into the cold water, no preparation as such. What I'll do is I will have my shower, and I advise you to do this too. Have your shower warm. Once you're ready to get out, turn that to cold. Try and fully submerge yourself, and that cold water shock will come. Okay. Now, what I want you to do when that hyperventilating comes and you want to jump out is focus on your breathing. And what I want you to do specifically is breathe through your nose. There's a lot of health benefits to nasal breathing, and one of which is activating what we call our rest and digest system. It's a part of the nervous system that essentially tells our body to relax. It's saying, well, calm down, man. We're not going to die here. Calm down. That's what you're doing by taking deep breaths in through the nose and deep exhales. We are trying to get our body to relax. There's a lot of evidence suggesting as well, if we breathe in through our stomach, particularly in through the nose, and try to expand our stomach, that it helps with that as well, activating that rest and digest system. So when you're in that cold water and that cold water shock hits you, deep breath through the nose, okay? Nasal breathing. Nasal breathing wins in pretty much every situation in life. Unless you're physically exerting yourself and you're trying to produce a lot of power, like through exercise, that's when maybe breathing through the mouth would help. But in most circumstances, whether it's at rest particularly, nasal breathing will really benefit you. So definitely try that when you're in cold shower. And as I said just there, make sure you've showered before it. Because a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I tried a cold shower and I couldn't even wash my hair. And I was like, whoa, right. No, you shower first, okay? You get your washing done, wash yourself, then comes the cold shower, okay? And you'll dread it. You will. Honestly, there'll be days when you're like, I'm not doing it today. But it's your job to be disciplined and push yourself through it. That's how we become more disciplined, by doing the things we don't want to do. So get in that cold shower. Once you've finished, once you've washed, all you need to do is submerge yourself. Keep yourself in there for 1 minute even. I find a lot of benefit from just 1 minute. Okay, so getting that cold water response where you start to hyperventilate, control your breathing through nasal breathing, deep breaths in through the nose, stay in there. Once it's had a minute, 2 minutes, get out. Okay, you can get out from there. But again, it's a fantastic tool to develop discipline. I always use it for the mental health benefit. If there's physical health benefits to it, fantastic. But I do it for the mental side of things. One thing I'd say to be wary of is don't do it too close to sleep, however. Because what happens is our body temperature drops, of course, through being in the cold. And what our body wants, that is completely wrong. What our body does is it starts to heat up in response to being cold. So of course we're freezing cold. We come out of that shower, and what our body does is it tries to heat up. Okay, now if you try to go to your bed, what our bodies naturally do when we go to bed is they cool down in response for recovery and to sleep. Okay, so it's almost going to disturb your sleep, and there's again a load of evidence to back that up. So probably not a good idea within a couple hours of you going to bed. First thing in the morning, excellent. During the day, gives me a wee boost, keeps me sharp, keeps me mentally sharp and on the ball. It resets me in the middle of the day. So I would highly advise that from that. But again, I use it to become more mentally alert, more clear-minded, more disciplined, and just more grateful. Because you come out of that cold, you think, wow, that was horrible. You become more grateful for the warmth. You start, every time I get in that warm shower, I'm like, wow, this is great. Because I know what's to come. I know how bad and uncomfortable this is going to be. But again, that's where we develop gratitude, by realizing these things, by realizing the good and what we actually have most of the time. Now, on to our next one. What I'm going to be discussing is gratitude, which I've just ended with there, of course. Now, gratitude is a life hack for all of us in our own pursuits of constant improvement. Gratitude is something that, of course, affects us mentally, but through physical acts, in the sense that if we do something physical, we should be grateful for that every day. We should be grateful for the smallest things we have, for waking up in the morning, for having those family members still by our side, for spending time with those family members that are no longer here. Rather than looking at things as, oh, this person isn't here or this thing has gone, be grateful that it has happened. Gratitude you can quite easily see a grateful person from an ungrateful person. And one way we see that, one way that makes a huge difference is, you'll notice, think of this, if you knew somebody when they were younger, this could be you, somebody who grew up in some form of wealth. Maybe their parents were very well off. Maybe they got a lot of things handed to them when they were younger. You'll tend to find when they're older, they won't be as disciplined and they won't be as fulfilled. They'll be a little bit more unhappy. They'll complain more because they're used to getting things their way. However, to change that, the antidote to that is by practicing gratitude. To be grateful for those things you have every day. Be grateful for the bed you sleep in. Be grateful for having running water, because so many don't. But we're blocked off from that side of the world. So you never have the chance to actually think about it and realize how incredibly lucky you are. We live in more abundance now than even the mightiest of kings have ever lived. We want cold water, we get it. We want hot water, we get it. There is nobody, we have no risk of being exiled from our towns, which they had thousands of years ago. We have no risk of being publicly executed as they did hundreds of years ago for saying the wrong thing. We have freedom of speech. These are things to be incredibly grateful for. And to make yourself that more optimistic person, we need to start practicing this. Now, the way to practice gratitude, to put it into action, one of the simplest form of it is with a gratitude journal. Now, all a gratitude journal is something you can write down or something you can type. I use an app. I use the Calm app on my phone. I use it for meditation stuff or sleep stuff, but it also has a gratitude journal in it. And I've used it for over 700 days now. So you can imagine how that will compound and how that's affected my mindset over that time. Because I list 3 things a day. I've done that over 700 times. That's a lot of things. It's over 2,000 things I've listed that I'm grateful for in my life. And a lot of those are simple things we often take for granted. Just list them, just mention them. That sole action of mentioning something will affect you, will affect your attitude, it will affect your mindset. These things, as I said, they compound. So that's a really good way to start, is get yourself a gratitude journal. If you prefer to write it down, great. If you prefer to type it, do that. One thing I would say is try and meditate on it. Now, all I mean by meditate is think about it. Take a little bit of time and think, right, what am I grateful for today? Why am I grateful for it? It's easy to say, oh, I'm grateful for my car, but why? Because it gets me places quicker, because it doesn't break down, because I've been incredibly lucky. All of these things, start to list them, start to list reasons why you are grateful, and you'll become a more grateful person. You'll find that when you are dealt the hard cards in life, which we all will be at some point, you'll take a better approach to it. You'll have a better attitude when faced with hardship, because you are grateful for the good in life. There is good in everything. Even the worst circumstances in life, there is good. But you need to be grateful. You need to practice gratitude to realize that. And again, it's as simple as that, gratitude journal. There's a really good quote as well that I like from a guy called Mo Gaudat, who was on my favorite podcast episode I've ever listened to in my life. It was the Diary of a CEO episode, and it's about happiness. He's an expert, some would say, on happiness. And in the forefront of happiness comes gratitude. Because when we become grateful, it lowers our expectations of things. And when we lower our expectations of things, we have more chance to be happy. Now, what Mo said was, as with most mindful practices, our minds tend to see what we focus on most. So if all you focus on is the negative, oh, my football team lost at the weekend, oh, my cutum's down, oh, I've got to go to work tomorrow, oh, I can't be bothered going to the gym, you're going to be a negative person. If you focus on the good, the fact that you woke up today, the fact that you have been to the gym this week, you have the opportunity to go to the gym, that you have these friends you're still friends with, that you've experienced these things that you've experienced, you'll be a much more optimistic person. It will take hold of your mind, of your subconscious mind, whatever you're telling yourself on a regular basis, and it will show in who you are. I can tell within 5-10 minutes of talking to somebody already how grateful they are because of the type of things they talk about. Do they complain all the time? I have no interest in talking to somebody like that. People will want to stay away from you if all you do is complain. Nobody wants to talk to somebody. Nobody wants to be around that energy of somebody who talks about negative things. Be grateful for what you have because there is a lot to be grateful for. Now, one thing I want to finish with on that is similar to what I've just explained, but if you imagine two people, as I've almost done there, you imagine this person that has grew up, they've been given everything, they complain about everything, and you imagine somebody who's grew up with nothing, okay? They have maybe no status, they have nothing, but they are a more happy, they're a more grateful individual. Who do you want to spend time with? Then who do you want to be? Which one of those people would you want to be? You would want to be the grateful one. So practice gratitude. It will change your mind. It will change who you are. You'll become a happier person. Now, I'm really looking forward to this part because this is something I've wanted to speak about for a while. I often speak about with people close to me, and that is motivation and everything you need to know about it. Now, motivation is something that everybody desires. Everybody wants to be that motivated person because we see it in others. We see when they're motivated. Well, so we think. We think, oh, that's a motivated person. Oh, look what they've done there. They must be motivated. The truth with motivation is that if you wait around for motivation, it will not come. Sometimes it will, and if it does, it may get you kick-started, but it is discipline that keeps us going. What we'll often find as well is that motivation is a byproduct of action. Motivation comes after action. Nobody wants to start going to the gym. Okay, nobody, if you've never been to the gym before, nobody wants to get up and go to the gym because they feel uncomfortable, they feel anxious about it. You won't, why on earth would you feel motivated about that? However, you will feel motivated when you start to do things, you start seeing results. That's when motivation comes. However, with motivation, it's fleeting, it disappears, it's not something to be relied upon. In fact, there are very few things that we can truly rely on in life, but one of those things that we can rely on is a truly disciplined individual. So what you should seek is not motivation, it is discipline and becoming that disciplined individual. Now, I'm not saying by any means that motivation does not exist, because it does. We've all experienced it, those feelings of motivation, of inspiration. There's a very good quote by Naval Ravikant. He says, "Inspiration is perishable. Act on it immediately." And all he means by that is whether it's inspiration, motivation, you need to act on it. Because as I said, it's fleeting, it will disappear. So anytime you feel motivated, act on it. Okay, it's very important that. Now, the one thing I do to do that is I started to realize when I was doing my self-analysis for the week, I would realize, when am I feeling most motivated? Is it when I've hopped off a call with this person? Is it after a training session? Whenever that was, what I would then do is schedule some deep work in after that to take full advantage of that inspiration, of that motivation. Again, that ever-fleeting motivation that will go, mark my words, it will go. And with motivation as well, people will always talk about it saying, well, oh, I felt great in this, whatever. You always feel motivated when you're doing well in life. When you're going to the gym, when you're eating well, motivation will be there. Of course it will. It's the time when it isn't there that we seek it most, that we think, oh, where is it? I need it. What, I'm going to watch a motivational video. I need to get it. You will not get it. You need discipline is what you need, not motivation. So again, motivation by all means is a good thing. Take advantage of it when it comes around, but do not rely on it. Discipline prevails. Always. Which is why I revolve so much of my week around practicing discipline and becoming more disciplined. Because without discipline, we don't move forward. And with, as I said, motivation, it's very much external. We get motivation from external things. We get it from YouTube videos. We get it from compliments from others, things that we can't rely upon. Discipline is up to you. It's your decision at the end of the day whether you act or whether you don't. I mentioned a quote in my last episode, which was Mark's Utilise, and he said about starting your own rescue. You're the one that's going to help yourself. Don't wait around for that motivation to come. Become disciplined and work on it. Start to work. So again, to highlight motivation, it is very important to understand that nobody is always motivated. People have often described me as motivated when I'm doing something. If I've just launched something, whether it's a business, whatever, this podcast, they say, wow, you must be so motivated to plan that and do that. No. I am disciplined towards it because I'm doing it for a greater purpose, a greater reason to provide value. So I need to be disciplined towards that. And the reason I became disciplined was by practicing it, by having cold showers, by going out these runs early in the morning, by weight training all the time, by having my non-negotiables that I do not let down. That is how I became disciplined, and I will continue to become more disciplined because I will never, ever rely on motivation. And I hope that is what you've gathered from this. Motivation, yes, is indeed a thing. And when it is there, take action on it, but do not wait for it. Embrace discipline because discipline always remains. Now, I'm going to leave you with some tips, some actionable tips about how you can implement these things. Because as I said, with these three things, they can literally transform so much. They can make us more disciplined. Gratitude can make us a happier person. So they really are of imperative importance to apply to your life. If this isn't something you do already, I would highly recommend it. Now, two of the things I've mentioned already, which I'll get out of the way, one of which is when you are in cold showers, make sure you're breathing through your nose. Okay, that's something you can apply next time you're in the shower. Turn it to cold, nasal breathing. Breathe through your nose, not through your mouth. Do not panic. Try to remain relaxed. It will take a while, but eventually your heart rate will slow down and you will relax. The next thing you can do is start a gratitude journal. Okay, download the Calm app. Use that. Just say it to yourself every day. Note it down. Articulate it. Maybe you say it to yourself. Maybe you say it to others. Maybe you have somebody you can say, listen, this is 3 things I'm grateful for today. Do you mind if I tell you about them? And talk about them, because that's how you become even more grateful, by talking about these things. And the last thing that I want you to apply was with regards to motivation is detailing those times when you do feel motivated. When is it? Is it when you listen to something? Is it when you speak to this certain individual? Then fill your time with this. Because as I said, motivation is fleeting, but there's something there with whatever action that is, with whatever task that is when you feel motivated. There's something there. There's something guiding you in that right direction. So whatever those tasks are, fill your week with them. And take advantage of that, because that motivation is perishable. So act on it when you have it. Now, as always, I will leave you with a quote for today. One that hopefully summarizes a good chunk of this episode. This quote is quite a big one, so I will try not to stumble my words, but I will need you to listen attentively because there is quite a lot to go over with it. And it starts like this. When you become comfortable with discomfort, you unlock new ambition, new possibilities, and unlimited potential. It is a shame for any man to go through life without overcoming discomfort, as it is what makes man stronger, wiser, and fulfilled. Get uncomfortable, unlock your potential. Now, with that quote, what we find is it's about unlocking our ambition, unlocking new possibilities. And that comes from discomfort. It comes from getting comfortable being uncomfortable. By putting yourself through these things that you do not enjoy doing, that you do not want to do, you will feel moments of joy and relief afterwards. You will feel fulfilled afterwards. You unlock new potential. These runs you never thought you'd be able to do, these workouts you never thought you'd be able to do, this unlocks a new part of your brain, a new expectation of yourself. And the worst thing that a man can do is go throughout life with unlocked potential, with not knowing what they have or locked up potential. They don't know what was left in the tank. Because when it comes to the point in our life, which will be different for all of us, when we could potentially be facing death, we will think back and we'll think, wow, could I have done this? Would I have done this? Should I have done this? The trick is now is to get comfortable with that discomfort and start unlocking that potential today. And you can do that by pursuing constant improvement. Now, with today's episode, you have a lot to take action on. Pick one of these things. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I ask of you just that one thing, to take something you learned, apply it in your life, and pursue constant improvement. Thank you for listening.